Commissioner Carter, and I would like to call the March 11th Board of Commissioner business meeting to order. As always, we will begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. In honor of Women's History Month, I've asked one of our females to do the pledge, Ms. Nicole Fife, our Township Solicitor.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Logan, can you please complete the roll call?
Catherine Carter, President.
Here.
Rebecca Moody, Vice President.
Here.
Denise Hall, Commissioner.
Here.
Liz McNaney, Commissioner.
Here.
Gregory Mull,
Here.
Commissioner. Sandra Zadell, Township Manager.
Here.
Megan Weaver, Assistant Township Manager.
Here.
Nicole Fight, Township Solicitor.
Here.
Leanna Calubriali, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police.
Here.
Nathan Crittenden, Finance Director. And Van Reeker, Zoning Officer.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Fight, were there any announcements of executive session?
There are. The board did meet in executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss matters of personnel.
Thank you. Tonight, we also would like to honor Jane, North Wales librarian, on her retirement. Jane began her career volunteering to start children's programming in our local public library. She expanded to many programs. Jane has been in North Wales Area Library for 43 years. The North Wales Area Library has won many awards under Jane's leadership, including highlighting the green building design, friendly atmosphere, the human library, a wealth of offerings, and an increase in membership. During the pandemic, they learned innovative methods to meet our community's needs. They continue to offer curbside pickup even today, which is, very helpful to people in our community. From adult book groups to attraction passes to story time, the library offers something for everyone, and that is thanks to Jane's dynamic leadership. Are there any other board members that would like to add anything before we present?
I have 2 young kids in the community, and we've spent a great deal of time during the summer riding our bikes from our community into the borough to the library. And what a magical experience. They're now 11 and 9, but when they were just starting to ride their bikes, to see them with their, I can remember my son dressed as a turtle, complete with shell backpack, to go take pictures at the library and pull out books and read them. And just for a parent, and when we first started going to the library, what a great resource for our community. So thank you to Jane for everything that she's done for the library and for our community and all the children and all the adults that benefit as a result.
Anyone else? Yes. Ms. Blake, would you come up, please? Jane? The plaque reads, "With our greatest appreciation, we hereby present Jane Blackledge. We are forever grateful for your years of service to the Upper Gwynedd community. Your unwavering dedication to fostering a love of books and learning has left an indelible mark on all of us. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Upper Gwynedd Township."
Thank
you. Congratulations. It's beautiful.
Isn't that beautiful?
It is. It
Here you
is.
go. I'll give you this one. Do you want to put? Yeah. Looks very breakable.
I don't want to be falling down. First day out.
No, and congratulations. We'll miss you
Thank
so
you.
much. You've done a great job.
Thank you so much. That's
All the time. We appreciate it. Really enjoy story time. The library to them.
So, and I wanted to thank All of
Jane, if you don't mind, would you go to the microphone? That way everyone can hear you.
I would like to thank our community for all of the support. Obviously, the library is for everyone in our community, regardless of any factors. I mean, we don't care about age, demographics. Nothing matters. We're all welcome at that library. And that is really a blessing in our community to have a place where everyone feels valued and welcomed. And we're glad that we can provide that spot. And we appreciate the support through the years and count on it going forward. The library will be in good hands, don't worry. It's very important that the right leadership be there. And the library will continue to grow as we have grown. And that's a wonderful thing for all of us that value education in any way and inclusiveness. It's just a great place to be. And I've been really lucky to be able to spend an entire lifetime. What you don't know is that my mother was the library director before me, and I was raised in the North Wales Library. So when I was a little girl, I went there. Catherine Schultz was the librarian. She took me under her wing, and I volunteered from the time I was in 3rd grade. So, wow, it is near and dear to my heart.
That's
Yeah.
a special treat. That's to learn.
Near and dear to my heart, and I think it's near and dear to our entire community. It is a place that everyone feels good about supporting, and we work really hard to make it that kind of place. We always welcome your suggestions and ideas. So, always know that if there's something going on that you'd like to see, reach out to us. We're there for you. So thank you again for this honor. I really
Thank you.
am proud to be able to be a part of the library.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do- Josh, do we have anyone online? Okay.
Listen to the sky. Oh, Martha, you can go ahead. We're all listening.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes. We got you.
Okay, so Martha Samilaro, resident of Upper Gwynedd, and I'm so sorry I cannot be there in person tonight to honor James. But for me, the library is very special to me. But I am on Zoom, and I can see all you guys. You all look great, by the way. So I would like to say a few words about James. And one of the things when I was thinking about this, I said to myself, aside from taking care of the library, what do people think that a librarian does besides taking care of the library? So I'm just going to go through a few different things that they do. First of all, librarians are gatekeepers of wisdom. They're the guardians who stand watch over the vast repository of human thought. They're also the stewards of curiosity. They ensure that every seeker finds their direction, but not only to facts, but also to wonder. Librarians have an uncanny ability to recommend the perfect read and many times lead us to uncharted literary territories. They're also storytellers, and Jane's a good one, not just from books, but from their own experiences. And then these stories become a part of the library's lore. The one I always found fascinating was that they're also architects. They construct bridges between generations. They fire up the curiosity in toddlers and rekindle it in retirees like myself. These are just a few of the things the librarians do, and this is what Jane has done so well every day for over 40 years. So tonight, we honor Jane, who lights up our minds and our hearts and has shaped many of our literary journeys. Thank you for making our world richer one book at a time. We'll miss you.
That
Is there anyone else in the audience that has anything for Jane this evening? Well, just a little anecdote. I told my daughter, she's 34, and Jane helped her fill out the application when we moved up here 20 years ago, and she got her library card. And recently she called and Jane renewed her library card for her. And I said to her the other day, I said, she's retiring. She's like, what's going to happen to the library? What's going to happen to the library? It'll still be there.
Yeah.
So just in small ways, you've affected my family, and we appreciate everything. my grandchildren love coming there for the walking library, the human library. They didn't understand what I said when I told them. I said, we're going to go to the human library. Like, really? Humans? They thought we were going to go to like buildings and they were going to see humans. But they really enjoy it. And I know my neighbors, 4 kids really enjoy the library. So again, we appreciate and thank you so much for your years of service.
Thanks, Jane.
Moving on in our agenda. Before we do the public comments, last week we had a few questions that were submitted, and I have the answers, the responses. One was to Mr. Bill Jackson. He had quite a few questions. So one was around the Liberty Trail. He had asked about the park assessment meeting. So our response was, we have selected this area for placement of the trail due to the fact that it is part of the PICO easement area, and we already have the easement. If we did the alternate route, we would end up with mostly an on-road route or wait years for potential easement acquisition, which is very difficult for trails. Our goal is to create mostly off-road trails with some sharrows and bike lanes out of necessity. We aren't attempting to be irresponsible with tax dollars. We can't get grant funding without easement, so the trail would likely not be built if it was on private property. We are attempting to build a nice trail that is off-road. In this case, we have the easement in hand. Oftentimes, trails are built along creeks, such as in the Chamonix Creek Trail in Bucks County. Now, in the future, things may change, but for now, this is where we are. Number 2, the zoning ordinance update. We will consider this for future updates within our zoning ordinance. So please send along any sample ordinance that for our review that you had said you had for the Montgomery Township. Also, he had questions around Church Road. The residents deserve a completely connected sidewalk. I believe you're referring to the preliminary approval for 212 Church Road. And looking at the plans and resolution, it shows that there is a sidewalk and no fee in lieu of sidewalk. They will still need final approval if they move forward. In general, we rarely allow for a waiver of sidewalks unless it is a small internal development with no potential connections to sidewalks. The 4th question was around West Point Railroad Crossing, stating the metal plating has been in disrepair since he's lived here. Megan has personally called our contact for the railroad. Megan, our Assistant Township Manager, has personally called the contact for the railroad, Peter, 2 times and has never received any return calls. It was confirmed that we can request that and make the upgrades, but there is nothing that allows us to require them. We will continue requesting the repairs and formalize it in the letter. Also, on the northbound side of the West Point Railroad, a reoccurring pothole. West Point Pike is a county roadway and not Upper Gwynnett's responsibility. We will reach out to the County Roads and Bridges Department and request a repair. And finally, Stony Creek Park placed bollards to prevent cars but allows people, bikes, and formal entrance. I have sent this to our Parks and Recreation Department to review this request. We will be in touch with their reply when we have it and get back to you. Thank you. The next one was the solicitor, Mr. Habib, was concerned about when he went to solicit during elections. DC Kaoli completed his investigation into Mr. Habib's concerns regarding his interaction with our officer on a solicitor's complaint. The complaint received was about door-to-door sales solicitation. Officer Bueno was the first officer to have contact with Mr. Habib. Once Habib explained what he was doing, Officer Bonanno was checking the ordinance because of the day and hour that he was soliciting, not because of the reason he was soliciting. Officer Young spoke to the residents who complained and then joined Officer Bonanno in speaking with Mr. Habib. Both officers said they did not argue with Mr. Habib. They did tell him about checking the date and hour restrictions listed in the ordinance, but they were noting that there was no violation of the ordinance at this time. DC Kaola did follow up with Mr. Habib to let him know his findings. Mr. Habib said officers were not argumentative and did not know the officers were only checking time and date concerns. Mr. Habib did inquire again why the exemptions are not listed in the ordinance. It was explained that officers understood the exemptions and the ordinance was created for solicitation that is not exempt, such as sales solicitations. And if he has any other questions, please contact the police. Thank you. Next, we have public comments. Please state your name and if you're a resident or non-resident when you come to the mic. Thank you for respecting the 5-minute rule and practicing decorum. Our goal is to always give you the most complete and correct answers to your questions, such as we just did from our staff who are experts in these areas. For that reason, you have the option of enclosing your email address in the registry. Residents, please approach the podium and speak clearly into the microphone. Please make sure the little green button is on also. State your name and address, and then your comments. First up for public comment this evening is Fred Hankin.
A little hard to hear back there. Is it just me, or it's hard to hear in the audience, just the level of volume? I'm just making a comment. It's hard to hear. I'm trying. Appreciate it. Can you hear me okay?
Loud up here.
Fred Hankin, 802 Clover Drive. I am a resident. Two things. Percy Borough recently announced they were going to provide a date for the residents to leave out spring yard waste for collection. My question is, what progress has this township made since I brought this topic up last year regarding enforcing the ordinances we have with our trash haulers to pick up our yard waste? Do we have any updates on that? I guess that's a no. I don't know about the rest of you. I
Said, we'll look into it.
appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate your comment.
Thank you. Yeah, I've brought this up several times. I know my bill from Whitehall has recently gone up significantly. I think we've all feeling some pain looking around the room. So, and they continue to charge a fuel charge. So there should be something that they can do to help us to eliminate that. I hate throwing that stuff in the landfill. It makes me sick. My second question has to do with the public opinion survey regarding the park and rec stuff that we're filling out. Couple questions. Why are non-residents allowed to complete the survey? That's question number one. This happened when we did the telephone survey or a township a few years ago regarding the Martin property. Sandra at the time stated that they just noticed that non-residents were surveyed and the results were going to be corrected. I don't remember, Sandra, if you remember that conversation, but it seems to me that non-residents shouldn't be completing a survey that affects us as residents, since we're the ones that are going to be possibly purchasing, constructing, and maintaining these recreation facilities if in fact we find that they're needed by residents. So I'm not understanding why non-residents are asked for their opinion. Do anyone have a comment on that?
No, not at this time. Well, we appreciate it. We're still taking the surveys and we'll get back to you.
It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand why. I mean, if you live in Upper Gwynedd, I could understand, but I'm not sure why residents of other townships. And I'm not sure if you're aware that you can fill out that survey multiple times. So that to me seems like, if I don't know, I could fill it out as long as it's on a separate electronic device. I could fill it out 10 times if I wanted to. And I think that may skew the numbers depending on what your perspective is. So, and the last thing I want to mention is when
Bringing that to our attention. I appreciate.
sorry,
I said, thanks for bringing that to our attention.
appreciate that you're writing it down. Thank you. And the last thing is that when this survey first went out, I noticed there were some errors, and I called the office and they corrected that. Do you remember that conversation, anyone? Okay. Probably not, because you would have remembered. No, I look at you because you're like my point person, but
Maybe you talk to someone.
I guess I get concerned because when this last survey went out a few years ago with the telephone stuff, we had some issues with non-residents, for example. So who's checking to make sure these surveys aren't like going out and then having to pull them back and correct them and send them out again? It just seems like the quality control isn't there that I would expect paying for these surveys. I don't know what they're costing, but, and I can't reemphasize, and I've said this multiple times, I do not understand why we don't mail these surveys to residents. I don't understand it. You stick a stamp on it, you get it out to people. That to me is the way you find out what residents really want. The fact that they have to be directed to a website that they may or may not recognize. If you mail it to their house, you're probably going to get a better response rate. So I guess my comment is if you really, in my opinion, if you really want results and get true feedback, you should be getting it in people's hands and not expecting them to actually click on the survey. I would run it, I'd be doing it completely different, but I would encourage you to look into that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment section. Thank you, Mr. Hankin, sorry.
Number
Now I'm going to turn it over to our solicitor, Nicole Fight, for our public hearing ordinance 2024-01.
Thank you, President Carter. The ordinance presented for consideration tonight is ordinance 2024-01, which amends the Upper Gwynedd Township Code of Ordinances at Chapter 195 zoning, at Section 3 definitions, Section 22 commercial district, and Section 28 parking regulations. The proposed ordinance amends these sections of the Township Code in order to provide a definition for a convenience store, as well as to clarify that the sale of gas is permitted as a special exception, and to clarify parking requirements associated with that use. The purpose of the proposed amendments is simply to clarify existing provisions of the ordinance in order to ensure that the language of these provisions is consistent with how the ordinance has been interpreted and enforced over the years. There are 4 exhibits to be entered into the record. They are Exhibit T1, which is a copy of the ordinance, Exhibit T2, proof of publication of the legal advertisement, which was published in the Lansdale Reporter on February 20th and 27th, 2024. Exhibit T3, the Upper Gwynedd Planning Commission review letter, which recommends approval of the proposed amendments, and Exhibit T4, Montgomery County Planning Commission review letter, which also indicates support for the proposed amendments. Our office has reviewed the file, and we have found that everything is in order and ready for board action this evening.
Thank you. Now we have public comment. Residents, if anyone has any public comments on this ordinance 2024-01, please approach the podium and speak clearly into the microphone. Again, asking you to state your name and your comment or concern for the ordinance number 2024-01. If you have any questions or concerns for Nicole, please come up.
Yeah, Carl Smith. I am a resident. I'm not familiar with it. I haven't done any research on it. I guess the question I have is does this relate to the Wawa property? Is that what the amendment's for, or is it just a generic change you're making?
The purpose of the amendment is really just to clarify the existing ordinance based on staff review, just to make sure that it's consistent with how the township has already been interpreting and enforcing the existing ordinance. So it's really just we're cleaning up the language essentially. There's no really substantive change to anything that the township has been doing.
So it's not necessarily specific to anything that you're working on.
No, not necessarily. I mean, it's really, Dan can comment if you know, if you feel that I'm not hitting the nail on the head here, but it's okay.
I said it last time. It's so the ordinance, the Wawa that you're asking about, it's been approved.
Yeah.
But what we observed in the last couple of submissions, the township saw some criteria that we thought would be useful to have in our ordinance rather than wait and have to negotiate out, say, a solution relative to setbacks for parking with the various applicants. Applicants are more than agreeable over the last number of years, Royal Farm, Wawa, and the Wawa down on Welsh Road. So what we did is we just sort of, as Nicole said, we made it what we call a housekeeping text amendment. So while it is applicable to all the Wawas, they already, to my knowledge, comply with the standards that we're asking the board to amend.
So in effect, it paves the way to make approvals easier. So I'm understanding it.
I wouldn't have used the word easier. I would have said clearer. And,
What would be the purpose if it's not easier and clearer?
well,
Let's use the
maybe,
word efficient. How
Okay.
about that? That's a word we love in government. Efficient.
uh,
That's a theory in government. It's not necessarily executed.
I mean, so I'm not here to debate over the semantics. I'm just saying to you that when we haven't added a new place where a convenience store could be positioned, so we didn't change where there could be built, which is in the C commercial district. We've simply added some, we thought, beneficial criteria relative to parking, spacing in front of the stores that we would like to see in the future. And since we liked them in the past, why not put that data into the ordinance? So it's really more simple than I've said, but hope that was helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? That concludes our public hearing section. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2024-01?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Finance, Personnel, and Administration. Number 12, is there a motion to approve? Number 11. Number 11, is there a motion to approve consent items A through H?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? Ms. Logan, can you please complete the roll call?
President Carter,
Here. Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney. Aye. Commissioner Mull.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Deanna. Is there a motion to approve payment number 4 to SB Conrad for the facilities upgrade project in the amount of $30,560.86?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? Again, Ms. Logan, can you please complete the roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody.
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney. Aye. Commissioner Mull.
Motion passes unanimously. Now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Commissioner Moody.
We have item number 13, a Merck presentation regarding Resolution 08-2024 for the preliminary and final land development for Merck Building 41. I believe there's an amendment, and so they're looking to make a presentation.
Good evening, Greg Landis on behalf of Merck. I was here 2 months ago where you were kind enough to approve our Building 41 lab facility. And just after that happened, we ended up with a small change to the footprint of the building. At the same time, I also noticed that there was a error in the resolution because I had the wrong number on the presentation I did that night, which carried over onto the resolution. So what we'd like to do is clean that up and hopefully move ahead with our building with the right information in the resolution. I jumped ahead. Our building is still where it was before, that gray square in the top right corner. It's a research facility looking something like this as we go ahead and complete it. Background, as I said, I was here on January 8th. Resolution 2/2024 was issued and signed by the township and by Merck. At that time, we determined that there was a minor change to the building footprint, which I will show you in detail. Merck made some minor changes, and we'll review that today with you, and our request will be to match up with the new resolution to make sure everything is correct. The original presentation had 110,600 square foot for the building, 40,300 for the footprint, which on the record plan that was in the deck, it's actually was 105, 713, and 42,075. I had rounded off numbers that got put in there instead of the actuals. So right now, our building sits at 119,324 and a footprint of 43,106, which is an increase in square footage of about 13,000. And that is made up of 3 different pieces. We made one of the stair towers larger, added a vestibule to the north side, and then added the rest as mechanical penthouse. When I show you the detail, you'll see where those things fit. To back this up, we revisited all of our stormwater calculations and updated our drawing set to make sure everything else matched up to this set. And Nick Cross was able to review that and determine that the stormwater was unchanged. And then the request went in to explain that. So this is the record plan. Don't worry about trying to understand it. The building is in the middle, and the record plan matches the correct number of square footage for each of those. So I blew that up so you can see it. What this represents is the building as you see it, the orange area to the bottom and to the top. The bottom is the stairwell number 3 that got bigger. That increased the footprint and it grew 3 stories. And then the vestibule was added to the north. Those were added for ADA access to get into the building a little easier, and for safety of people entering, to make sure there was enough room to move around. The rest of the square footage, about 10,000 square feet, was added in mechanical penthouse on the top floor. There was enough room up there to safely navigate around things. So that brings us to the revised resolution, which should represent those numbers. So that is I didn't know if you would revise it or issue a new one, so I put it as a revision, but however that goes, we want to make sure the numbers are correct. So that's our ask.
Thank you. Are there any board questions?
Just quickly, Mr. Landis, you had mentioned that an increase of over 13,000 square feet, but it looked from your schematic that it was all within the existing footprint for which you've sought variances, I believe, or for setbacks and certain things like that prior in January. So that doesn't expand the perimeter of the project, right? That's just, it seems to be just internal changes in the way that you're building, inclusive of a stairwell and a vestibule, that's increasing the square footage versus expanding that footprint that you saw.
Correct. The building area stays the same. It's well within the site. It's 800 feet off the roadway, so it sits in the middle part of our research area. And all we're adding are those 2 little bumps to the actual footprint. But all of the size of the project, 3.9 or 4.1 area acres of cover, or square footage of coverage of the area where the building sits, all stays the same.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 08-2024. So it is a new resolution for the preliminary and final land development for Merck Building 41 as amended and presented today.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, do we have any board comments? Any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, President Carter. As the chief explained last month, the supply chain issues are still affecting our purchasing of vehicles. Therefore, we have budgeted for 2 this year for the police department. I'd like to make a motion to approve purchase of a 2023 Ford Police Interceptor as a replacement vehicle in the amount of $41,570.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? Ms. Logan, can you please do a roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney. Aye. Commissioner Mull.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms.
I also wanted to add a big thank you to the Reserve in Upper Gwynedd. In case you aren't aware, the Reserve is a senior living development in our township who is very generous in supporting lots of areas of our township, but especially our police department and our fire department. Recently, Officer Toro and his partner Gunner, who is one of the canine dogs, gave a presentation for the Reserve, and as is often customary with the Reserve, they gave a very generous surprise donation to the canine program. Also, last week, our fire department was visiting the Reserve, and they also received a very generous donation. We are so grateful for the support from the Reserve that we just wanted to do a shout out. And in case you were wondering, our other canine dog wasn't slacking. Fury was busy visiting Corpus Christi School's March Madness tournament this weekend, as well as the Night to Shine dance event at North Penn High School. Both of our canine dogs are always the life of the party. Thank you, President Carter.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Now I'm going to turn the meeting over to Commissioner Mull.
Thank you, President Carter. You can see on agenda item 15, I'm going to seek a motion to authorize the bidding of the Haynes Run Stream Bank Restoration Project as discussed last week.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, President Carter. And item number 16, I'm going to be seeking a motion to approve Resolution 07-2024, which closes out the Community Conservation Partnership Grant, which authorized which financed the engineering and the design of project BRC RCP 27238 for the Haynes Run Stream Bank Restoration Project. As that project, the engineering and the design phase has been complete.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, President Carter. I'm also, due to some omissions in what was the lowest bid, I'm going to seek a motion for the award of the contract for the lowest responsible bidder for the West Prospect Drainage Improvement Project, NJS Concrete, inclusive of the bid base and alternate bid number one, in the total amount of $185,295.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye. Oh, okay.
Yes, it is just near that area. Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, President Carter. I'm also seeking a motion to approve the bid award for the North Wales Trail Crossing Project to Armor and Sons Electric Incorporated in the amount of $61,194.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, President Carter. Moving along, number 19, I'm seeking a motion to approve the bid award, or I'm making a motion to approve the bid award for the 2024 Liquid Fuels Road Program to James D. Morrissey in the amount of $829,311.40.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And finally, President Carter, I'm seeking a motion to approve the request for exemption from Upper Gwynedd Township Parks and Recreation Department and event for the Unity and for Kindness Day. That event, that exemption was for the sale by McAllister's Brewery of draft beer at their Unity for Kindness Day. The hours are 11 to 3, and in consultation with Chief Duffy and various considerations the town made, I think this is a responsible toe in the water for such an event. So with that, I make a motion and I seek a second.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Mull.
President Carter, I'd just like to say that that was a very hefty section for Commissioner Mull, and it reflects all of the work that our township has in store this year for our residents.
Thank you. Moving on to wastewater treatment. Is there a motion to approve the purchase of a 2024 John Deere Gator in the amount of $22,742.55?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye. Oh, sorry. Ms. Logan, can you please complete the roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney, Commissioner Mull.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Deanna. Do you have a motion to approve the March 2024 open invoices?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Any public comments? Ms. Logan, can you please complete the roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall.
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney.
Aye.
Commissioner Mull.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I have a motion to approve the March 2024 paid invoices.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any board comments? Any public comments? Ms. Logan, can you please complete the roll call?
President Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Moody,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner McNaney.
Aye.
Commissioner Mull.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for coming out. This meeting is adjourned.